In this video, we will learn about variables. So in MATLAB and other programming, variable is a basic thing that you need to learn. And think about variables are about like locations or boxes, like where we save we save things. Like in this case, if we have x equal 5, so we take a space like an area and the memory of your computer, and we just give it a label x, and we save the number 5 there. So that's equal. It's not like we use it in math. It's like we call it assignment operator. So basically, we save the 5 in a location that we call x, and we could change that. Let's say we add 2 to the x, that will become 5 plus 2. Then we can save it back in the same location. So that's whatever that space, we call it x, and then now the new value for x is 7. So just remember that that's called assignment is maybe better than equal, which is mainly we assign. We pick. We need to define a variable like x, and then we assign it a value. Before you use a variable, you have to give it a value before you can use it in other formulas. There are rules that you need to pay attention to when you are naming variables, or just think about this as these locations. So the name of the variable should not be longer than 63 characters. Again, that's very long, but keep that in mind. It should start with a letter. We can't start with a number. We only can use letters, numbers, and the underscore. This is the only thing we could use in the name. You can't use the at or the question mark or the backslash, forward slash. All of these are not used. And this is very important. It's a case sensitive. So if you use the small letters, will be different variable, like a label or a name. Like this is variable 1, different than variable 1 here if you are using different letters. So that MATLAB treats the smaller v different than the large v. So that's very important. And there are functions, and we call them built-in functions in MATLAB. You need to avoid using these when you are, making your own variables, like exponent and the sine, cosine, square root, length, mean. So these are some of them, and we could check for these to make sure. I mean, MATLAB will give you an error if you try to use one of them in making the assignment. And again, when you name, it's better, depends on what you are working on, to try to give it a reasonable name so that it's easy for you or for whoever looking at your program to understand it. You could, as I said, as long as you follow these guidelines, you should be okay. So let's look at some examples in MATLAB. Okay, so let's start. Let's say start with the first variable. So let's try to ask 5 equal x equal 5. So that's merely we're picking a space in the memory, and we call that x, and it's already there. And you can see here when in the workspace, it's already saved there. So that's the workspace will keep track of all the variables and function you have, and it's saved like what we did before. We have to make sure every variable should have a value before we can use it. So let's say if I say y equal z plus 2, you can see z is not a recognized function, so you have to, anything you use in the right side, it should be defined before you can use it. So that's it's not going to work. And you can't the left side should always be variables. You can't say x plus 2 equal y, because we in the left side should only be variables. So you can see here error, incorrect use of the assignment. This is an assignment operator, so you have to always use the variables there. And so let's see if we now we can say x equal x plus 2. So mainly, what does it mean? The original value for x was 5, and now we are adding 2 to the 5. So now the new value for x is 7. Then it will be assigned to x. So now you can see now the new value of x is 7 because we assigned the new value to it. We have another command that you need to remember, CLC. That's to clear the screen. So when you get to the bottom, just keep doing that. So it's CLC. So if you do that, you start fresh again. But as you can see, the variables that you created are still there. So let's maybe pick another. Let's say y equal 8, and we could, if you just want to create the variable without showing its value on the screen, you need to put a semicolon. So let's say if I say z equal 3, I just put semicolon. It will be created, or it will be assigned. So this is assignment 3 without showing it on the screen. So you can see you don't get that. But if you look in the workspace, now we have it created. So z equals 3. How about if we make something, let's say w equals x plus z. So we know x is 7 and z is 3. So if that works, then w should be a 10. So if you click enter, and that's correct, so it shows there. And again, if you don't want to show that, if you don't want to show the answer, you just want, and now w is a new variable, so you can see it's saved in the workspace. Even if we clear it, so CLC, and if we want to check, just if you want to put w, then it will show you that it's still there. And or if you put x and you click enter, it shows you what's the current value of x, what's the current value of y, and what's the current value of z. So you can see these, they all exist and they are there. But as I said, we could change their value. So let's do CLC again to clear it. So even as I said, we cleared it, but they are still there, so you can see them in the workspace. So if I put again x, is still there. So how about if I don't need x anymore, then we have another function, we call that clear. So CLS to clear the screen, but clear, if I say clear x, it will remove x from the memory of the computer. So you can see it disappeared from the workspace there. If I try to check, just put x, and you can see this is unrecognized function or variable x because it disappeared. If you want to remove all the functions or variables in the workplace, you just put clear without specifying anything. So clear. So that will clear all of them. So you can see now nothing in the workspace, it's empty, and we could clean the screen too. So let's check and see if you put y, it's not recognized anymore, so it's disappeared. If you put x, it's not there. If you put z, it's gone, and w, all of them are gone. So now we can again clear the screen. Sometimes when we write, we need to put something that we don't want MATLAB to process. We just want it for comments, for somebody to look at that. If you need to comment something, you start with the %. So that's %. This is, so it will not, you see that this is just for a comment. And this is more important when we learn about scripts later. So you can explain what you are doing or why you have this comment. So mainly every time if you need to comment, you just need to put the %, and for that, if you start with the %, then you put your comment. You could check if a variable name is one of the keywords. So you could say is a keyword. Let's say we used already X. And then if you get a 0 means logical 0, this means it's not. So it's a case sensitive. So if you put X equal 5, that's a variable, compared if you put X, capital X equal 7, so that will be a different variable. And you can see there they are assigned two different assignments there. And again, if you see y equal 3, we could so let's see CLC, we clear that. If we also, another way in addition to the workspace to know what variables are there, we call it who. So just if you type who, this will give you a list of the variables that that are created and saved. So we have X, capital, so who, so we have X, capital X, small x, and Y. We have who's that give you more information. So you can see X is, we again, MATLAB treats treat them as each number or variable as if it is a number as a matrix of one column and one row. So that's why it's depends on them. And the default, this is the type of numeric values. The default here is double. We will learn about this shortly, about the different types of numeric, and this is the size for them. We could assign words also as variables. So let's say I could say name. So name equal, and you need to put, if it is we call that string, you have to put it in quotation, like Muhammad. So that will be a variable there, so by itself. And again, if it is numeric, we have either it could be integer, which is just with no decimal point, or if it has decimal point, we have two types. We have single or double, which is mainly, it just depends on how many zeros do you have. Just remember this. So if it is word, we call that. And when you are working with variables, it's important to pay attention to the order of precedence. And this is like the same as in Excel. So the first priority, go to the parentheses. You have to start with the parentheses, then the exponent, and then multiplication, division have the same order, and the last thing, addition and subtraction. If you have multiple, like let's say multiplication, divisions, the MATLAB will start processing them from left to right, or the same thing if you have more than one addition, more than one subtraction, MATLAB will process them from left to right. So that keep that in mind, how to remember these orders. So let's look at some examples here. So if you look at this first example, and so we have two operations, mathematical operations. We have the plus, the addition, and the division. And if you look, we know that the division has higher order than the plus. So that should happen first, because if you remember, the division has higher order than the so then this should happen first. So you could do this in multiple steps. So 12 divided by 2, this is 6. Then the 6 will be added to the 10. That will give you that will give you 6. And so that's if we want to find the average, so that will be wrong. So that we should not do it this way. So that's because we need to make sure to force it to do the addition before the division. So to do this, we need to put the parentheses, because we know the parentheses, they have order number 1. So in this case, this will, whatever inside the parentheses will happen first. So 10 plus 12 So that's the 22, then divide by 10 by 2, this will give you 11. So that will give you a correct answer. So you can see if you miss that, then you will get a wrong answer. So that's why it's very important to know how to do that order of. And when we do variable calculation, we just keep that in mind. As I said, we could do addition plus subtraction, multiplication, and this is the current is the power. So like this is b to the power of 2, and we have the division. We will do some examples on MATLAB to process that. So just as I said, make sure to pay attention to the order of these operations. So let's do some examples in MATLAB. So like if we have, in this case, we have a equal 5, b equal 15. So just by adding them, a plus b, just it will add the two together. This is b square, so b square, so the 15 square. That will happen first, and then whatever the answer will be multiplied by a, which is the. Okay, let's do some examples on variables calculations. So first, let's see what variables. So these are the variables we have. Let's verify here. So we could use who. So these are the variables we have. We have x capital, name, x small, and y. If you need to know what type of variables we have, we use whose. So that will give you the x is double, the name is a character, and these are numbers. So let's clear the screen. So if we say z equal 2 plus 3 times 5. So what answer should we get? So remember, multiplication has higher order than division, so that will happen first. So 3 times 5 is 15 plus 2, so that should be 17. So let's check, and that's what we got here, 17. If we how about if we do it this way now? If we do say z equal 2 plus 3 in parentheses now, and we multiply by 5. So what do you think we should get here? So now the parentheses has higher order than the multiplication. So whatever inside the parentheses should be 2 times 3 is, so this is 2 plus 3 is 5 times 5, which is 25. So that's correct. So that will give you an idea about the order of precedence, and that's very important to. Okay, so I think that will give you an idea generally about variables, their names, and how to check for them, and how to housekeeping like this to the CLC. And now if we are done, we can do the clear to remove all variables from the memory, and they are gone now. Then CLC. Okay, thank you.